there's this cat, Tom, who's trying to kill this canary, which has just been purchased and brought into the house where the apartment where the cat lives. And the cage with the canary in it has been placed above the dining room table. And so Tom's on the dining room table trying to figure out how he's going to jump up there, get in the cage, and eat the bird, which is traditional. And then this thing happens, epiphany, say. But it's this flash of light, intense flash of light, changes everything in this story. And some perhaps might think that the flash of light was perhaps caused by a reflection, a passing car, magnified somehow. Or some might think that the flash of light was God. God came back to earth, because after the flash of light, everything happened. This is how the story happens. It's this flash of light, because Tom and other animals found that they could think and feel as humans do, and speak as humans speak, and even odder, commonly things you could find around the house, objects, and also pharmaceutical helpers, things we use. They sprouted arms and legs and heads and faces that aligned themselves with the internal workings of their new heads. And after the flash of light, after Tom glimmered that he could speak and he could think everything's different, 180 degrees, he no longer wants to eat the bird, to kill the bird, but he finds, seeing her in this new light, he loves her. I love the bird. One of Tom's first thoughts, love that bird. And he wanted to live with her. He needed to live with her in the cage. And this is the story, how eventually she lets him in, and so she lets him in, and they worked out a deal. And then one evening, with Tom as away doing chores, he was getting her, the canary, hot chocolate. That was one of the things in the deal they had worked out. And at this point, this cartoon of the story continues.
When full of images, Tom readied himself for the leap, an eager and well-prepared actor about to step onto the stage of his life.
I forgot to tell you something. I got to stop the tape for a second. You won't understand, because while Tom was doing his chores, the cocoa, hot chocolate, a spoon accompanied by a bottle of codeine-laced cherry cough syrup, arms and legs proportional to the shafts of their bodies, and they had faces. The faces were drawn broadly to reflect a simplified inner life. And they just crawl up the legs of the table, and they wander on the table, and they're underneath the bird's cage. Well, what do they look like? Well, the way I like to think about this it was as if two characters to which Samuel Beckett had given partial birth and had prematurely set into motion, had wandered out of the grasp of his imagination and fallen into the hands of an aging Walt Disney. Well, a canary, our canary, who lives in a cage with a cat, can be said, I think this is true, if one is generous, to be open to a myriad of opportunity, and in a metaphysical sense can no longer be considered virginal. A fair-minded observer, I think this is true, must conclude that. So when our canary hears this metallic hello coming from the table, she then sees the spoon and the bottle, and they want to come up, and she's, she got what's going on, and sure, why not? And so, well, the reason why Tom's so mad is because while he's gone, they get her loaded on the cherry-laced codeine cough syrup, and she's passed out. He thinks the worst. He didn't think he was going to think the worst, but he thinks the worst, and everything happens quick, from this love of his life, And now the story can continue.
But when Tom shot through that cage door and saw the scene from close up, forgetting the script, he ate the bird.
I've got to stop the tape again. I'm sorry, because there are two versions of what happens next, and the version on the tape is no longer the one that I like. I just don't like it. In the other one, the bird it dies, and the cat dies, and I just don't like it. We'll call it sentimentality. That's what I'm calling cult. Yes. Well, he immediately tries to throw up. He's filled with remorse. He didn't realize what he did, and he can't. He sticks his paw down his gullet. He's trying. He's like this doctor on a TV show, and he somehow hates to acknowledge a gap in his infallibility, and he repeatedly gives electric shocks to a man on the operating table, so long dead that the only other person left in the room, and of course beside himself and the dead man, is the janitor. That's how long and hard Tom tries. And finally, in this version, he manages it. He throws the bird up, and the bird pops out. The bird's alive, miraculously, but is not in great shape, as you would imagine. But she's shaken, but she's alive, which is good, because they'd all be dead. But there are problems with this. For instance, this is just a for instance. This book, let's call it accidental swallowing. Will the canary, will she ever be totally relaxed around the cat anymore? And will the both of them ever be able to return to those heady first weeks of language? And if so, will they enter into the humdrum of repeated chores, eventually settling into the mundane silence of a caged life? I wonder about things like that. And after some time, although capable of speech, will the cat and the canary, as many human couples do, no longer feel the need to speak, and would they begin to live as mimes, inhabiting this gesture world, so unnervingly precise, that each comes to believe the other's gestures, for instance, a flick of the tail or a peck of the beak against the cuttle bone, will be converted into audible and meaningful sound? For instance, this flick of the cat's tails, not by the canaries, oh yes, that's so true, as she taps out her responses, Morse code, of meaning against her cuttle bone. And to the cat, though, each peck, paragraph, it's a paragraph. And I wonder if the cat and the canary, wishing to honor their odd union, will they want kids, will they? And if so, would the cat attempt to mount and penetrate the bird? And the question is, would the canary let him? Would she let him? And if yes, how could this be accomplished? Would some cartoonist other than Disney have had to been called in to adjust the scale of their sexual devices? Well, see, these are just a few of the things that I'm still working on.
I forgot to tell you something. About the spoon in the bottle. Sorry, bad news. The cat, sorry.